Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Trade Talk. This is episode 13. I'm your host, Niko. So today, this was quite a busy week for me, so I was able to fit in a few different volumes of mangas. Mangas I've actually tried out for the first time this past week, so I'm going to talk about those very briefly. I got 3 different new ones I tried this past week that I was able to fit into my schedule. And the first up is No Guns Life. This is story and art by Tetsuku Karasuma. And if I pronounce any of these names incorrectly, I apologize. As you guys know, if you've listened to past episodes, I talked about manga one other time, and you definitely read more Western comics than compared to manga, so my experience level and knowledge of them is not as great, I would say, as Western comics. But I'll do my best to let you guys know what I thought about each book. So, yeah, this is the first volume of this series. The second volume, I think, will be coming out in a month. And it was sold to me as being a noir cyberpunk book, and I would say that's pretty accurate. Cyberpunk isn't something that I really gravitate towards as a genre that much, but like I've read Battle Angel Alita, and I really enjoyed that, and that was basically advertised as such as well when I first ended up picking it up like a year ago when they started releasing the series in those deluxe hardcovers, which are great looking, by the way. And if you've never read that series, I thought that was really enjoyable. I really liked that. But yeah, so but noir definitely is something, a genre that I do enjoy quite a bit in my comics. I read a lot of crime-based comics. And so, yeah, I felt that this would be interesting, as well as the fact that on the cover you got a guy that basically has a gun for a head. I know it sounds really bizarre and weird, and I thought at first maybe this would have been one of those, more comedy-based manga. But, yeah, Viz brought this out under their signature line, which is more of their mature titles. Most of the manga I read usually comes out from their this line of books, the signature line, as opposed to like the Shonen Jump ones, the more teenage boy genre books, or even like the Shonen Advanced stuff. I definitely read probably the majority of my stuff comes out of the signature line. They just have a lot of books I'm more so interested in, I find. So in this one, there was a war that people basically became like cyborg soldiers for. They were known as Extended, and then they were discharged. And the main character in this is one of those people, and so they basically fused a lot of people's bodies with technology, and basically made like some sort of hybrids as a result. And our main character in this, his head, they basically made into a gun, but when he fires that thing off, which he actually does end up doing once in this volume, it's like some crazy powerful blast. So like you would assume he would have been a pretty big asset during this war. But after like they used him for that, and like his use was over, and the war ended, he basically has to live his life now as this kind of like this monstrosity, almost this walking pistol like guy that has like a head for a gun, and he can't even shoot it himself. Like he requires somebody else to actually pull the trigger on the back of his head. So even if he were in trouble, like he's actually got also guns on his hands, like his hands, like there's on each knuckle there. Like if you look on the cover, you can see like even there's like a barrel on each one, and towards the bottom of his like palm like he's got like something that loads up the bullets, like technically like almost like a 6-shooter barrel that you'll see on a pistol, like and it loads bullets into the different barrels like on each one of his knuckles of his gun. So it's like it's really interesting. So he uses that as a defensive kind of mechanism as opposed to the one on his head, because he can't control that. So but meanwhile, like, I guess the noir part of this is he's an extended who now is living his life, and he has like almost like a private eye office. Instead of a private eye office that people come to visit him to kind of solve cases, they come to him to deal with matters that involve extended. So, like, he's made it his life mission now to help other people that are in need, that are basically like he is, that might fall into, different situations that would require assistance, because a lot of the people that are like this are mistreated in society, as well as, it's like with that cyberpunk setting, there's a lot of kind of shifty people and distrust with the government that's happening in this, and then basically he gets involved with a case and gets caught up in the middle of what becomes essentially like them kidnapping a child, but then it turns out the child is like the illegitimate child of like I don't know, I guess you could say like the president, like basically like a high up politician that's like in the government, that's basically now trying to track down this child and do what with them, like, kill them or get rid of the evidence of the fact that like this child is his. And it's so he becomes almost like a guardian to her when he finds this piece of information out, and he basically just gets caught up in the middle of it. Remind you of anything? It's basically like one of the plots of Sin City. So it felt very noir in that sense, because like Sin City's pure noir, and not only that, you got that, but then you also got like the futuristic kind of almost post-apocalyptic fallout of this war with these people that are running around that are half man, half machine. Like, so like it's a very interesting mix, and it had some comedy in it to boot. Like, they do make fun of the fact that no one knows where his eyes are when they talk to him. People will be talking straight at him, but they'll be like, listen, I don't even know where to look you in the face. Like, you're basically, because the fact that he's got a big fucking pistol as a head, it's very strange looking. So they're like, where are your eyes? Like, so they make jokes about that. So they do poke fun of it and make light of the fact that, it is kind of ridiculous that that's the case with this guy. But yeah, it's just very interesting. A lot of weird, interesting world building going on in this. Some good character moments. You definitely get the impression that he is playing that kind of private eye, role in this book. And yeah, I'm very interested to read more. So, No Guns Life, Volume 1. Check it out. Retailed U.S. price is $12.99. It's a thicker volume for a first volume from the Signature line. So you definitely get your money's worth, in my opinion, for that. All right, next up, another book from Viz's Signature line as well, Doro Hedoro. And this is Volume 1 of a series that just recently actually wrapped up, I think, with Volume 23. This is by Q Hayashida. His artwork is fantastic, first off. Oh, and by the way, I guess I didn't talk about the artwork in No Guns Life. It's good. I like it. I'm not familiar with the writer or artist from anything previous to this, but it's good. It serves the story well, and I really like the look of it. And Doro Hedoro, it's, this art's very interesting because it's, very messy and inky, scratchy, just ugly looking characters in this, and there's a few color pages like they usually do in some mangas, and that was excellent. And like the color palette that they use in those pages specifically is unlike anything I've ever kind of seen. Just the way it kind of it's almost as if like it's like painted. It's like doesn't look like your regular like digital coloring. Like it's either like he basically either painted over this or you know, definitely used some other technique to kind of put these colors down that he did here. It looks very unlike anything else, and yeah, this is a very strange book, and this is a thinner volume. I would say it's about, like I said, the same price, $12.99. Usually these kind of signature line ones are, and they're a little bit larger. Also, I may add, if you haven't read any of like compared to other like shonen manga, which is like very small, like the volumes, individual volumes, this stands a little bit higher than those and is a little bit wider as well. So like it's a thicker, usually bigger volume of manga. But this first volume is not that big. But I've heard about this series for a while. I've been meaning to jump in, and I got a couple of other volumes that I got on the cheap, but it's like volume 9, volume 15. So like, so I just picked up volume 1 to try it, and I'm gonna definitely be trying to fill in the gaps from here on out, though. For those other missing volumes, because I'm very, very interested in this series just after this first volume. Basically, it's some weird world where there's something called, I think it's called the Pit, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, the Hole, and it's in a city where like a clan of sorcerers have been going down to, like, it's almost like it's the upper class of the sorcerers living on Earth, but then there's, in this city, there's like a big big actual hole like in the middle of the series, and they basically essentially go underground, and there's all these weird like people that are essentially people that have been used to experiment on. It's like they like, it's interesting. It's basically like the upper classes going and that are sorcerers are going and fucking with the lower class in this of people, or like the homeless, and essentially using them to practice their and use as experiments for their sorcery. So as a result of them, you know, going through the motions and learning their spells, like a lot of people have become like these disfigured creatures or like weird atrocity, like I mean, I'm using that word as according to the back description of the book that I just glanced over. Yeah, exactly. They're just being used as like guinea pigs and you know, on their spells. So it's kind of weird. It's weird right off the bat. Like the kind of, I mean, first off, the book starts with one man in another man's mouth. Like there's this guy that's basically this big lizard dude, and he's swallowing a man's head, and there's somebody inside of his body that he's asking him what he said when he pulls him out. So like there's like somebody that inside of his mouth, inside of his stomach, that pops up and will like say phrases to people that he ends up sticking in there. Like he's been transformed into this creature, this guy, but he has no recollection of his past life or self prior to this spell transforming him, like whoever ended up doing this to him. And for whatever reason, he has like somebody that's inside of him, whether it's his inner self or just some sort of like, you know, other kind of trickery. It's hard to tell at this point. Like you don't get a lot of answers. It's just very strange and weird, and you kind of get thrown in face first into this world without explanation, and kind of learn as you go. And if that's done well, I can really appreciate that way of storytelling. The cold open, I do like it. And yeah, and then from there, like the character that he shoves down his throat, he ends up actually getting away. And then he becomes like the other side of things. Like he's the other main character that we're following in this, who lives above ground with the sorcerers. Like he's a sorcerer, and then you learn about the sorcerers and kind of their involvement with this hole and with the people and kind of their relationship with each other through him. But meanwhile, you get this guy with like the big like lizard head or like, I guess, crocodile head, something like that. He looks like something like that, a reptile of some sort. and this other younger woman live in the hole, and you kind of see things from their perspective as well about how he's going around killing people. Like there's been a recent string of murders that he's responsible for, because he is going around, like I said, biting people's heads off or shoving them down his throat so he can he can get answers and kill these sorcerers that basically did this to him. But like I said, each person he does that with, like, he'll pull them out and be like, oh, did that person say anything to you? And the person will say something that won't, he'll be like, not the one or something, and he'd be like, well, I think essentially he's using it as a way of a method of figuring out like who did this to him. Like and it may be whoever this person is inside of him is supposed to tell him. So, because like once that is said for somebody, he's just like, oh, you said you're not the one? All right, I got all the information I need out of you. And then he like proceeds to tear their head off, right? So very, very strange stuff. But I think like it's an interesting dynamic, and the art is really, really cool looking. It's an interesting dynamic between these characters, the sorcerers, with these people that live in the hole, and like you even see at one point in this, like the young girl that's friends with this other lizard guy, she actually gets affected by somebody that visits her restaurant. Like there's people that go from the above ground, that go into the hole, that are kind of just passing through, or kind of, but most of them go down there just to fuck with these people. But I guess someone went by her restaurant, like she works at a restaurant or a bar of some sort, and somebody goes to eat there, and as they're leaving, he turns around and she's in conversation with him, saying that she just witnessed like one of the shittiest transmutation spells that she's ever seen. Like somebody ended up fucking up one of their residents and not doing a very good job of it. Like you could tell that he was green, like he doesn't know how to bust out these spells, and as a result, the guy was all disfigured and very strange looking because he fucked up on the transmutation spell. And she's like, yeah, it's one of the worst ones I've ever seen. Like, this guy must know nothing. And then the guy turns around, and it turns out it was him that did this, as she was talking about, just, unsuspectingly thinking that he's just a customer and he had nothing to do with this. Then he busts out a spell on her and ends up fucking up, and then she has to kind of be transformed back. So yeah, these are just the type of things that go on, at least within this first volume. I don't know where the story goes from here or how it changes, but it's definitely piqued my interest. I'm very interested in continuing this book. So don't be surprised if I end up talking about it more in the future when I've read a bunch of them. So yeah, very, very strange book. In terms of genre, I mean, it's hard to describe. I mean, if you're into like fantasy, or like again, like almost like sci-fi. Yeah, I would say if you're into fantasy or sci-fi or dark humor, definitely check this book out. Because while it's hard to categorize it as either fantasy or sci-fi, I think it just definitely has elements of those kind of things in it. Like magic, for example, exists in this, and other supernatural kind of goings on. It seems like they live in a weird world, and it is very violent, and it's got dark humor. So yeah, definitely check it out if anything like that interests you. And last off, my last new manga that I've read this past week, new to me, basically the start of a series, and it's from the Shonen Jump line from Viz, is Dr. Stone. Now this book is stories by Richiro Inagaki and art by Boichi. And this has been getting a lot of praise. I've heard a lot of really good things about this, and I was trying to avoid picking up a new shonen manga because between the few ongoings I do read currently, I wasn't looking to, because these shonen mangas come out like every 2 months, 2-3 months, so they come out at a pretty regular pace. And these volumes are usually $9.99 US retail price. So if you can get them for a discount somewhere like I do, I usually get them for like $7. So I mean, it's not gonna take you back too far, but like a lot of these series have the potential to go on for like a long time, so you never really know what you're signing yourself up to by picking these series up. But I'm told that Promise Neverland, which is one of the ongoing shonens I'm currently reading, will be ending soon, from what I know. As well as originally I heard that is the case with My Hero Academia as well. That wasn't supposed to go on too long, but that's such a huge hit at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up changing his mind and cranking out a bunch of more volumes. But like originally I'd heard that was only planned to be, at least anyways, like maybe 20 something 30 volumes of the actual manga, so volume. So and I've been really enjoying that. But like something like One Punch Man, I don't know when the hell that's gonna end. And I'm not deep into One Piece, but I've not even been trying. Like, I got a few of those volumes, but that's like at 90-something volumes at this point, and there's an end in sight, but it's not going to be years and years so away from now. So, yeah, so you got to kind of really pick and choose. Sometimes it's nice just to pick up something that you already know how many volumes it's going to be, what you're in for when it comes to manga, or like a completed series, right? These little series sometimes that are like 6 to 8 volumes really is like the perfect length for me, I feel. But if it's something like I just said, Doro Hedoro, like 20-something volumes, that's not bad. Like, I think once you're going more past like a 30-volume range, then that's a big commitment. But this Dr. Stone was highly regarded, so I'm like, okay, I'll bite. It took me a little while. There's already like 7 volumes out, I think, of this manga. And I mean, obviously more online and in Japan, but for what Viz has released, there's about 7, and I think the 8th is on the way next month. So I ended up picking up all of them. I've just read the first volume. I really enjoyed it. I was just told like this book has a lot to do with science. Like, it's definitely got a lot of the shonen tropes, but there's a lot of explanation about science in it. Like, the actual Dr. Stone character in this, for whatever reason, the world basically gets encased in stone. Like, a bunch of the characters at the start that you're introduced to is these younger teenagers that are in school. And one of the guys trying to profess his love to this girl that he's had a crush on forever. And in the midst of just when he's about to do this and let her know his feelings for her, like a wave kind of goes over these kids, and they get encased in stone, and they don't get out of the stone till like over 3,000 years later. And that's basically the basic premise of this. And I guess maybe that's why they call this the one character Dr. Stone, like, and he's like this super smart one of the group, and the other one is just the guy that's like the meathead, like just basically has like all the physical endurance for the team. So any of the tasks that they come across that like need that trait, he's right there trying to help out, because he's like a dummy compared to this other dude, the brains of the operation. And like, he continuously calls him like a big oaf in this, like, so there's a lot of funny elements to this story so far. And from what I've been told, and a little bit of evidence in this first volume, as the story goes on, you see them break down a lot of the theories he has as they make their way through this world and try to figure out ways of surviving by using science. Like, they'll explain to you, like, different ingredients needed to, like, it talks about combining, they make their own wine in this, for instance. They're like, oh, I wish you could have a drink. And they're like, oh, I've seen grapes over there, like the dummy of the group kind of says. He's like, he's like very clever. He's like, okay, well, this is how you make wine. And like, he just knows how to do that, and like, he knows how to combine different elements. Like, he talks about sulfuric acid in this, I believe it was, and or another type of acid maybe, but like, but again, like, he combines different things to make other things as they make their way through this world where everybody's basically encased in stone in the future, and through it they explain the science of it all. So it's very interesting in that respect, and I've heard that that's basically how the series is moving forward as well. So it's got a little bit of comedy in it, got interesting characters, kind of, it definitely got some of the shonen tropes going on. Like, it's fun. We already were introduced to a potential bad guy in this, and you're following around our main protagonist, which is the Dr. Stone character, as well as, you know, his big O friend. And within this first volume, they were able to break free the girl that he's in love with, that he was trying to profess his love to, prior to everyone basically being stuck in stone. And they introduced us, like I said, to another character who is very physically dangerous. Like, he's a big fucking guy that could serve as a problem to their team. Like, he first kind of tries to make it so he's like, oh, I'll be the hunter for us, like, I'll catch us all this food. And they're like, you know, I don't know who this guy is, but like he's definitely an asset to have around. But then you find out he ended up going and like destroying a bunch of the statues. Like, you know, so if you punch a hole and destroy a statue of this person, even if they were to come out of the stone, they're going to be fucking missing a body part. So it's he was killing them. So, but now they've found a way to get some of the people out of the stone using that acid that I talked about, that they found in like a bat cave. They were able to take something that was dripping from the wall and combine it with something else, and basically make this thing so it breaks the stone up and you know, get someone free. So I'm interested to see where they're gonna go moving forward. It seems like a fun, simple premise that, and the artwork's really great as well. You know, even the girl in this, some of the younger women characters in this, they kind of, you know, a little cheesecakey kind of sexy poses or looks that are kind of in here. So yeah, it's pretty fun. You know, like I said, I have the rest of the volumes, so I'm gonna continue to read those and see if it's something I will stick with. But so far so good. It's not as solid of a start or as full of a start as the other two books, I would say, that I talked about tonight, but it's definitely enough that, I mean, I already got the volume, so I'm going to have to read them anyways, but I was told a few volumes in, especially with a lot of these shonen mangas, that's usually how much it takes to kind of get the ball rolling and kind of set our characters in a direction that lets you know whether or not you're going to be interested in this book. So I'm looking forward to reading more. All right, everybody, that's it for me today. Got things to do, places to be. So thanks for tuning in as always, and we'll see you guys next time.